Perception is neither right nor wrong. It merely is. For autistic populations, this is an especially relevant psychological revelation. On endless occasions, have the experiences of autistic individuals been diminished or altogether rejected by an assumed label of disability inflicted onto our neuropsychological profiles. The complicated truth is that misperceptions do not exist. Each perception is a legitimate reality for the individual who experiences it. Unspoken social intricacies are learned intuitively by neurotypical brains. They are learned cognitively by Aspies. Neither way is right nor wrong. They are both productive and diverse means of communication. The problem is, the Aspie way is not truly embraced or understood for what it is. For this reason, Aspies have a negative self-esteem, and we attribute this to who we are as individuals. Calling attention to the flexible use of the word misperception may seem like a grammatical technicality. However, it is a covertly and highly critical issue, and that it has invalidated the autistic tribe since the beginning of time. Historically, autism has been seen as an esoteric phenomenon, like a puzzle in need of solving. The irony is twofold. Autistic individuals are incessantly anthropologically studying our environment, trying to make sense of confusing stimuli, all the while being viewed as socially awkward nerds. Autism or Asperger's is not something you have, it's something you are. The Aspie way of communicating is often direct, honest, inquisitive, and non-judgmental. There is no logical reason to make small talk, engage in meaningless conversation, abide to illogical social norms, obtain feigned relationships, or break concrete rules or laws that are intended to keep society safe. These characteristics are not indicative of these characteristics are indicative of intellectual diversity, not disorder. While autistic individuals struggle and experience tremendous trauma in their lifetime, it's not attributed to deficiency. It's because we feel unseen, uncomfortable, misunderstood, and unsafe. My best friend articulated this phenomenon analogously. She said, having Asperger's is like being blind, except you do not have the blind man's excuse for not picking up on the social atmosphere of a room. Someone with physical struggles or external challenges seem to receive support more readily. While Asperger's is understood to be a high-functioning form of autism, it is really its own unique and often invisible profile that falls through the cracks of the diagnostic system. While these needs are esoteric to mainstream society, voices of the Aspie are seldom heard. Too much research has been done on autism and Asperger's by non-autistic humans. I thought this needed to change immediately, so I decided to interview my Aspie mentees and friends as a more relevant platform for understanding. My friend and mentee, Carly, who I interviewed at Mansell Hall, said that she describes herself as an intellectual and comedic genius with a refined taste and culture. However, she asks rhetorically, how does a girl with a genius IQ and 2 Harvard grads for parents end up somewhere like UVM? What is particularly interesting is while these individuals report being bullied, outcasted, alienated, ostracized throughout their development, they report that their intelligence, their confidence in their intelligence is strong throughout their entire developmental trajectory. However, their academic confidence declines rapidly. So there's a discrepancy between their intellectual confidence and their academic confidence. And fundamentally, there is a big difference between intelligence and academic performance. I myself am autistic. I've always observed my surroundings and my peers. In grade school, I would pace the surroundings of my schoolyard observing my peers playing, my general surroundings. I would do this while I was on the swing set as well, until I realized it looked odd as a middle schooler. The motor repetition helped my creative process flow. It is how I learn and I process the information. When my siblings had friends over, I found it especially interesting watching them interact with them, how they engaged in conversation, their facial expressions, what topics they talk about, all of the luxury of not being able to host them. The brand of Asperger's I express can come off as neurotypical. However, I will have you know that it is all an act. I have an emotional and visual connection to the words I hear. My memory is videographic. Like Temple Grandin, when I hear the word steeple, I specifically think of Church Street in Burlington, Vermont, as opposed to just any steeple. It irritated and exasperated me to no end that I had a para-educator with me in high school. Eventually, I nicknamed them my stalker. My social status seemed to increasingly suffer each day. Their job essentially was to ensure that I made it to class on time and had all my books. I just hoped that they'd go on their smoke break. I instructed them to remain neutral when they came to my classes so that no one would sense that they were tied to me, or to prevent further people from seeing that they were tied to me. One girl in my study hall in high school asked me, "Aren't you the girl with Asperger's?" I froze in the moment, but in my head I was strongly thinking, "Well, aren't you the most arrogant person I've ever met?" Little did she know my intellectual competence, despite the fact that taking tests was an absolute nightmare for me because of all my surrounding stimuli. I didn't finish the SAT on account thereof. I thought that it was basic psychology, that my basic needs needed to be met before I could engage with anything, socially, academically, or any facet for that matter. However, when I did feel comfortable, safe, and myself, I felt like my intellectual potential was limitless. When we are intellectually and emotionally invested in something, we thrive at it. It is when we have overwhelming factors impeding onto our life that damage our self-esteem. How do we fill this apparent void of connection? Well, one reason is create environments that are conducive for our neurological wiring. Accept noise-canceling headphones. Know that stimming is a behavioral manifestation of how we process information, and always ask for a hug before giving one. And stop insisting on eye contact because it's invasive and threatening and makes us lose our many trains of thought. When you train us to be like you, know that it is for you and only you. Being autistic in nature is a fundamental gift. When we feel challenged, worthless, or have mental health problems, it is not due to the mere fact that we are autistic. It is because we are unseen. Stop pathologizing Asperger's and welcome us into the fields of politics, academia, education, and specific professional roles. In reference to Hans Asperger, excellence in science and art requires a dash of autism. Dare to inquire and to learn from us. We have been neglected and suffered for too long, and it's not just to our expense, it's to yours too. Thank you.